Lilith, daughter of Hatred. In the first act of this story, she made a comeback in Sanctuary and managed to get her demonic hands on the key to hell, but we still didn't know why and how she intended to use it, and despite all our efforts, we were unable to do much more than follow the trail of blood left by our passage. I am Wallace, and this is the second video of a series covering the story of Diablo 4, and this one will be about the second act, called The Knife Twists Again. And this time, our journey would start in the rocky mountains of the southeast of Scosglen, in a place called Eldain Keep, where Loratnar had told us to ask for the help of one of his friends, Donan, another Horadrim well versed in the knowledge of demons. Folks here were praising this place, saying it was a hallowed ground blessed by Narrated himself, and beware to whomever say words against the father of Sanctuary here, as there were more knights penitent than citizens in this camp, and they were taking their job seriously. And we were not halfway through the keep when we overheard a tale from an old man, one who spoke of Astaroth, the Charred Baron, a demon that was slain by three heroes, Herida, Naphane, and Donan, and an event that put an end to the dark days of Hash. Now the veracity of this tale was questionable, but Donan was practically seen as a god here, the man that saved them all, and it was in the Great Hall that we first met him, as well as his son Yorin, and quickly mentioned that the reason for our visit was Lilith. First, he didn't seem much concerned, but thanks to the naivete of his son, he was forced to tell us about an incident that happened at his estate, something related to our own story, and told us to go take a look by ourselves. We also brought him news of Ratman's death, and from that, Donan revealed that Lilith was searching for the demon Astaroth, the one from the tale, and according to him, it has something to do with the key to hell previously retrieved from Ratman's body. Strangely though, Donan's speech was vague. It was clear that he was not telling us everything he knew about Lilith. So we hopped back under the cold rain of these lands and crossed Yorin's path before leaving the keep. He was heading to Braystag to join the Knights Penitent contingent there, and told us he was under their tutoring, and honestly just happy to finally be allowed by his father to leave this dull place. As for us, we stepped outside and reached Donan's manor in no time and started to investigate the place. First finding Brega's tombstone, Donan's wife and Yorin's mother. She had been a great scholar, and from what we found inside the house, Brega had traveled much with Donan during their youth, and her premature death had been hard for Donan, who became a little overprotective of his son afterward. And deeper in the house, inside the study, we found many books and notes related to Astaroth, which confirmed the veracity of the tale from the old man. So Donan had really been fighting this demon, and to our great surprise, we found something that we had come to know a little too well. Blood petals.
And I know you, Donan. Old, tired, each day a struggle to live up to your own legacy.
What do you want with me?
Astaroth.
She's dead.
Astaroth cannot die. Not by your hand. What have you done with him?
Away, demon. I deny you.
You have grown so frail. I can make you the hero you were.
Return to the darkness from whence you came. I said away!
signal horn.
That was no horn from Gondor, but still needed our attention as the manor was suddenly raided by the Blood Clan, and those goatmen were not going easy on their attack. So we slaughtered them until the very last corpses hit the ground, but unfortunately, this new incident left many victims behind. This assault was not a coincidence and surely had a link with Lilith's presence, and when we told Donan about our vision, he suddenly felt more open to a fair discussion, and explained that the people on the painting were Nephain and Herida, druids that helped him defeat Astaroth, and since Donan showed resistance to Lilith's corruption, she had probably decided to question them instead. Perhaps they would be easier prey. As for Astaroth himself, Donan knew he was coming from the same realm as Lilith, the realm of hatred, but had no clue on why she would be looking especially for him. Now the next logical step would be to find Donan's old comrades before Lilith, and for that the Horadrim gave us the location of 2 villages near the druid's home, and was positive that the Knights Penitent stationed there would help us. After all, it was Donan who first sought the cathedral for help after the days of Hash, and their duty was to help them rebuild Scosglen, so our goal was pretty much the same. We decided to search for Herida first, and once again hit the muddy road of this humid part of the world, and found a town and its residents in a terrible state. A strange fog had gathered to the north, bringing mad spirits and ghosts dangerously close to the walls. Folks here were preparing for a fight that no one knew how to win, gathering talismans on one side and sharpening their blades on the other. The chieftain, Asgiel, was not pleased with our presence any more than that of the Knights Penitent, which seemed like a common thing in Scosglen, but still shared that a demon had been spotted, likely Lilith, and was heading uphill to Herida's domain. Now to avoid the fog, we will follow our new guide Yorin and take the route east through the Weeping Cairns, and rapidly realize that something in these tombs was rousing the spirits. Normally, Herida should have been here to pursue her task of watching over the dead, but beneath the cold earth, we could only find angry spirits and a passage that shouldn't have been blocked, as this place was meant to let the spirit roam free, not to restrain them. So we helped Yorin open the path in hope that it would ease the ghost's temper a bit, and found, on the other side, a memorial set by Herida for all who died fighting the Charred Baron. And while we were investigating, 2 vengeful wildwood attacked us, driven mad by hatred. Lilith was bending the dead to her will, and the moment we saw the druid runes meant to rouse the spirits, written on a cairn in a further room, we knew that Herida was helping the demon, willingly or not.
What do we do?
We'll need to stop her.
Right. Solutions are found ahead, not behind, as Father says.
So be it, and without more complication we made it to the other side of the cairns and met Harlow, a friend of Donan who had managed to stay alive so close to the fog, thanks to his presumably blessed hut. He had seen Herida and Lilith pass, and they were on their way to the top of the hill, a place called Solitude. Soon after their passage, he had started to hear the sound of Herida's music carried by the wind, and only then did all the trouble with the dead started along with the fog, which was drowned by what Arl called the risen remains. So we started to search for it and found that they were weird altars which seemed to be entangling and torturing souls. This type of magic was beyond our comprehension, but destroying them cleared the fog and allowed Yorin and his friend to safely return to town, as the path to the top of Solitude was a dangerous ascent not meant for a rookie, and the closer we got, the louder was the sound of Herida's Talarpa.
Only one of us will walk away from this. So let's enjoy the storm a moment. Nature's music.
The old lady was aware of all the dead killing her people, as it was her who awakened them. From what she explained, she wanted her people to fight the spirit, as it would make them stronger. And yes, it would kill the weak in the process, but in the end, those who survived would be strong enough to save this land from the power of hell. That was nature's way, and to accomplish such a deed, Herida had made a pact with Lilith, and in exchange, she told her how to break the wards around Astaroth's prison. She had done all this for people to get stronger, but would only have brought pain and despair to some who already had lost so much.
The stronger prevails. So be it.
Following this tragic event, there was still another druid who required our attention, Nathane. He was living deep in the woods and had refused to meet Donan for quite a while. Can we guess it has to do with the presence of the Knights Penitent once more? So we headed east to the Shrouded Moors and found a place in a much worse state than Bracestag, if that was even possible. A little village called Termere, where corruption was spreading to every living thing, animals and plants alike. People were close to starvation, trying their best to survive in this sick land, or slowly abandoning it behind. Despite all this, knights were still in service here, and the captain, Razia, had seen Lilith in the moors up north. They had also tried to check in with Nathane, but as soon as they entered his territory, they were pushed back by the druid's wolf companion. It was known to all that Nathane hated the cathedral, but according to Razia's belief, he had more hatred for Donan than the church itself, but she didn't know the details of their story. So we took our chance and went to Boggeland Stone Circle and found what seemed like Donan's rustic house, as well as a nice message. By chance we were no knights and so appeared Nathane's companion, which was way more friendly than what we had been told, and sort of agreed to let us to his master to the bloody swamp of Bloodvale. Yeah, there was a lot of blood, and in the heart of the moors we found Nathane, or half of him to be correct. His meeting with Lilith had definitely gone worse than Herida's, and he did not bother wasting time explaining his situation, but quickly directed us to the north, where he believed was the daughter of Hatred. He was also positive that we still had the time to stop her.
Fearburn will accompany you. Hurry!
The poor boy, another soul crushed by Lilith's madness, and for a time that felt so good, our road traveled with our new animal companion and followed the flow left by Lilith's corruption from Bloodvale to Crimson Path, and found clear marks of Lilith's passage. These visions were like a prayer, an anthem to anger and hatred, meant to awaken a forbidden power drawn from the blood of the innocent, the blood of Nathane. And at the end of this red river was the spawn of hatred itself, a creature both majestic and horrible, the fruit of Lilith's corruption, but it escaped before we could kill it, called back by his mother. And it is empty-handed that we came back to Nathane, only to learn that all of this was his fault. He had made a pact with Lilith. On one side she would help him get rid of the Knight Penitent. Really, those folks should have stayed in their country, and in exchange he told her where Astaroth was hidden.
How die?
Why?
In her presence, I lost control. Rage consumed me. There's only one thing to do now. End the corruption.
Let me tell you that the worst part of this story was the poor wolf who'd lost his master. It was now time to go back to our starting point, and as expected, Lilith had preceded us there as well, and Helheim was already teeming with goatmen. It took us a while, but we eventually reached the Great Hall and found Donan, who had been spared by Lilith and her dog. She was toying with the Horadrim, and seeing how desperate the situation had become, Donan finally revealed the truth to our hero. Long ago, he and the two druids had managed to trap Astaroth in a soulstone, but his power was such that the small artifact would not hold him long, so Donan decided to hide the stone right here, in the cave beneath Helheim, as the place was a capstone blessed with Inari's light, and so its power would be under control. That sort of reminds me of another story. But anyway, Donan knew exactly where to find Lilith at this point, and he was also worrying for his son Yorin, who might just be dead already. And when he found the corpse of his guardians alongside his mace, the father became very anxious. He didn't know exactly what Lilith was after and what interest she could have with his son or with Astaroth. In fact, all he had learned was that Astaroth was the guardian of Lilith's father, the well-known Mephisto, Lord of Hatred. So Lilith and the Charred Baron had at least one thing in common. All those reflections led us in the last chamber, but once again, we were one step behind our Blessed Mother.
Mighty Astaroth, the charred Duke himself, confined to a cage. What a pity.
Daughter of hatred.
I have an offer. You will grant me safe passage to a place I am no longer welcome. In exchange, I will give you freedom and more. Donan's progeny, his pride and joy, your retribution if you give me what I want.
You will have safe passage.
Donan should have been broken by our revelation, but instead, he urged us to seek for Astaroth as fast as possible. There was perhaps a chance for Yorin to resist the demon long enough to be saved, and according to his experience with this fiery demon, Donan believed he would head straight towards the closest crowd of people to burn, which meant the city of Serigar, where the rain had already changed to ashes.
Mama! Papa, where are you?
We could feel the despair amongst the people here. They were reliving a dark chapter of their story and knew they were doomed. There were barely any soldiers left inside the walls, and most people had fled or burned already, and all eyes were for the lower city, where the carnage was ongoing. As we approached a blazing field to the north, the smell of burning flesh struck us hard, and our hero was about to join Donan in a last attempt to rescue his son.
You're in! You're in!
He has been waiting for you.
Where? Where is he?
Come forth.
My boy. He called out for you, wept until his tears became fire.
Do as you please, Astaroth. I have what I came for.
That was the true meaning of evil, and so started our battle against Astaroth and his Hound of Hell, striking arrows and dodging the blazing breath of the beast, while chasing it across rumbles and corpses was no easy thing, and just as the fire was getting a little too hot to handle, we struck the final hit, bringing down the charred Baron and his wonderful mount. But like all things in Sanctuary, that was far from a victory, as another parent had lost his child, another innocent soul taken by hatred.
Yorin. I'm sorry, my son. I'm sorry.
The Horadrim was not the only one who'd lost a loved one that day, but people in Scosglen were strong, already getting back on their feet. The Knight Penitent had left the lands, as did some citizens, but most would stay and rebuild the town over the thick layer of ash. Lilith had once again got exactly what she wanted, and as the fire grew smaller and the rain started to fall again, it was time for our hero to leave this country, and our next destination would be the Dry Steppes, to see if Lorath had made any progress in his search for the Pale Man, and that would start in Act 3, called The Making of Monsters. Thanks for watching folks, and see you later as we continue to delve in the story of Diablo 4.